Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I am Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. If you are tuning in from the UK, welcome. This video is especially for you. Although if you are new to Seint in general, no matter where you are, we aren't completely going global yet, but even if you're in the US or Canada, we do ship those places. We are expanding into the UK. This video is going to be over what you need to know to get started before we launch. So if you have seen the brand all over social media and you aren't really sure what to think about it, I'm gonna kind of like be brutally honest in this video and tell you guys what you need to get started with, what you don't need, and what I think after a lot of experience with this makeup, what the most important things are for you to know before you get started. If you want to check it out, please keep watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe because I have a lot of tutorials every week here on Wednesday, and thank you guys for being here. All right, friends, I will be honest. I have no idea at the time I'm filming this video when the launch date in the UK will even be. We still don't know yet. So by the time I post this, hopefully I will know a date. I will put it right here when we are launching in the UK, and that includes England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So if you are needing a color match and it has not launched yet, I can still color match you, and so you'll have all the information you need. So for those of you that don't know, I am talking about Seint Beauty, Seint 3D Foundation. This makeup has been around for, it'll be 8 years in January when it launched its artist program. Just know it is no longer a direct sales company. It's not an MLM. I am an artist affiliate. I was part of that program for over 7 years. I'll tell you, I am not jumping ship to another company. I'm not joining any other direct sales. I never was into this makeup for that reason, like some people were. I simply tried the makeup and fell in love with it. And I had an aging face. What I was using before did me no justice, no favors. And it was the first thing that I really knew was very different and solved so many problems for me. So I had to share it. This is Seint. It is a 3D foundation system, meaning it's all cream makeup, highlights, contours, makeup, the foundation. And then we have loads of options as like lip and cheeks, lots of eyeshadows. We just launched a bunch of more lip and cheeks. There are always things coming out, lots of colors to choose from, lots of fun things, but I'm gonna show you what's the bare necessities. Like if you are getting started, you've never seen from this brand other than maybe social media where people are, drawing stripes or dots all over their face, like that. I did a video, I debunked why that isn't the best method. I'm going to show you what I recommend. I've been an artist for over 7 years, and I will be honest, it took me years, probably 3 years plus of trial and error on my own face, troubleshooting with clients, lots of back and forth, learning what was working for clients and what wasn't, sending them shades from my own collection in order to make sure they had the perfect colors. And that's kind of the way I've learned to color match. The company itself never really offered training on that level. It was completely based on experience. I learned the hard way, and I wanna make sure you guys don't make any of the mistakes I made in the beginning, like skipping some important tools or getting a bad color match. So let's go over what I think is the most important things you guys need to know as I do my face, and I'll show you guys. And yes, 41 years, and I finally had my first encounter or breakout or whatever you want to call it with eczema. Yay, I'm so lucky. It's like it took me 35 years to realize, oh, I have rosacea. And then 6 years later, I now have eczema. You guys, I have it all. And I will be honest, that is one of the reasons why I feel like I am an expert at color matching, because I have been able to teach you guys with my own issues what is the most important things you need to look for when you're asking for a color match, and what your artist should be telling you to do. If they're not asking you some of these questions, that's a red flag. If they're not asking you what concerns you want coverage on, our highlight shades are not like universal. They all cover redness or darkness or hyperpigmentation in the same way. Definitely not. It can be a little confusing. We don't have a shade range like traditional foundations, and our makeup also doesn't work like traditional foundations. So all that to say is there's some important things you need to know. I'm sorry, it is really bright here, and the sunlight keeps going in and out and probably reflecting off of my glass desk, but this is all natural lighting. So we're gonna deal with what we can. So for example, here are our highlight shades. You can probably very easily tell by looking that we don't have every undertone at every depth of a skin tone. So it's not necessarily like you're gonna pick one, put it all over like a traditional foundation. We use these colors and different undertones that we have within our line to color correct, to then use as like what I call main foundation, which would be an all over color, to brighten where you want, like a concealer. Although our lighter shades, I don't like calling them concealers because they give less coverage than the darker shades. And this is why our Seint highlights, as we call them, are very different than traditional foundation. And it's something just to kind of keep in the back of your mind. These aren't like traditional makeup. It's not gonna look like this is the color I wear. This one, and this one down here. Not at all what you would probably guess by looking at my skin tone. They don't look like they do online. The pictures are very deceiving because they are highly pigmented, and it will take me 6 months to get through that itty bitty tin of a cream, because it is it's not even creamy. Like, it's very deceiving. It's like one of those things, until you try it and kind of know some of these things to avoid upon your first application. I can't tell you how many people have come to me that said that they saw someone painting it all over their face, bought the colors they recommended, and hated it. Absolutely hated it. I've seen more reviews online, and it is simply because they weren't color meshed properly, for one, and two, they weren't advised on how to actually properly apply it for the coverage they were looking for the results they were looking for. And so 2 things I find are most important in a color match. You tell me what concerns you have on your face, and like, how do you want to match? Okay, so like for me, I want to match my neck. Some people like it darker. You can tell by looking at my face. My face is naturally darker than my neck because I have rosacea and I have a lot of hyperpigmentation. I've had freckles my whole life, but my neck is not freckled, but my chest is. Like, I could match my chest, I could match my neck, I could match my face. It's a personal preference. Makeup is such a personal preference thing. So I have a lot of concerns, which is why I feel like I've learned so much about this makeup and why I'm so good at troubleshooting for us mature clients, because as we age, like I just said, I got rosacea as I turned 35. These dark spots that I got as I got pregnant, and they just kept getting darker. Hormones and the hyperpigmentation from years of sun damage because I didn't know what I was doing in my 20s. And now I've got eczema, just to throw it all on there. And so if I was to do the dot method, these would get 0 coverage on my face, and I wouldn't match my neck. So one of the biggest things I see is people not asking how you want to wear your makeup. Do you want a natural coverage or do you want full coverage? It's completely different when you're giving a combination of colors and you're not just giving one color. I see it all the time. People are given one shade to match their neck, if that's what they say they want to match. But guess what? If your face is darker than your neck, it's not going to last on your face. So one of the most different things about our makeup, and I am always asked, well, how can that be true? I don't understand. Guys, I'm a chemist, I'm a scientist, and trust me, I've been trying to think of ways to explain it for years. All of our highlights are the same formulation, okay? Now, obviously, when you look at them, the pigment is different. They have different undertones, they have different pigments, but that is the main difference. The rest of the ingredients of our highlights are virtually the same. Obviously, the darkest shade is gonna have less titanium dioxide than our lightest shades because what? That is a white pigment. So here's the way I like to explain it. I'm hoping I can show you guys with this visual. Enter my Sharpie on a white piece of paper. So if you think of this white piece of paper as your skin tone and you have a dark mark. Now, everyone has different levels of what I call contrast in their skin. And when I'm color matching somebody and I'm looking at their general skin tone, I'm looking at the darkest part of their face. I look at their general skin tone, but it's the last thing I look at. I look at the depth of the darkest point. So if you tell me your darkest point is under eyes, I'm gonna see how deep those are. I'm gonna see if anything else is at that depth. And I'm gonna give you a corrector shade that will match that point. And here's why. If you're to take a really dark contrasting point on the face, so I have hyperpigmentation. Right now, my eczema is actually the darkest point, okay? Whether it's red, brown, purple, blue, doesn't matter. With our makeup, if you're to use a shade lighter than that point, what are you gonna see, okay? White pigment. So lighter colors are mainly white pigment, okay? They have different levels of pigment. But if you're gonna put a color lighter than that, you're gonna see that point through the shade, right? Now you could put another layer and you'll see, okay? I put 2 layers. You can probably still see it a little bit, but as you build up, you're gonna get more and more coverage on that point, okay? Now, I don't think I need a sheet of black paper to show you guys that if I did have a black piece of paper and I put it over the point, guess what? It's gonna be covered in 1 layer. Now, the thing is with cream makeup, the more you have to pile on a spot, the more it can emphasize the texture of that spot. Can eventually look cakey. I mainly hear texture, cakey, like that is the main thing. Not to mention, the more of this makeup, it's a cream. The more makeup you have to put on, the more you're gonna feel it. You can get sticky or tacky. And one of the things why I'm so obsessed with this makeup is because I can use way less of this and get far better coverage than I can even a liquid, and it doesn't make me look dry or cakey ever, because I have discovered the power of color correction. And so my color corrector is like a black piece of paper and it covers the spot, and then I can just use the color of my skin tone more or less, or like over it to keep it matching, okay? So like, obviously I'm not gonna put black on this, but I'm gonna match the depth of that point with what I call a corrector shade. All corrector shades are not equal. I'm not talking about Demi correctors. I'm talking about 3D foundation, and I pick specific highlight shades to correct whatever the concerns are you tell me. And so if you don't say you have any concerns and you want a natural coverage, you most likely will just have 1 shade you can put all over for a nice natural look, a brightener if you want to, but it will highly depend upon your skin tone, what you're asking for, what kind of coverage you're looking for, how you want to match. And the same thing goes if your entire face is darker than your neck, but you want to match your neck. You can't put a white sheet of paper on your darker point, and our makeup actually will wear off if it's too light. So it's hard to explain because people are like, that doesn't make sense. But just think, it's a different level of pigment. And so you're trying to cover up darker points with more white pigment. It doesn't last. It breaks up on the skin. the more you have to put on, and I see this a lot of times when people that are just match too light, they're having to use a lot of their shades. Like if you're going through a 10 of your color in a month, 2 months, 3 months even, you're probably color matched too light because you're having to pile it on. I apply very little. I can't feel it on my face when I'm done. That is the key to a perfect match. You get the coverage you want, you match how you want, you can't feel it. I don't even need a setting spray. So I find a lot of people that are matched too light, they have to load up on powder and setting spray to keep it on their face. And that's because naturally these creams don't set, so they will move around on your face unless you set them, or if you're over applying, the more issues you'll have, okay? So first things first, get a proper match. I don't recommend the starter collections because why? Because you can get a perfect match. Get it customized for your face so you don't have to worry about troubleshooting later. It will save you so much time and effort, I promise. I will put my color match request. It is completely free. You just fill it out and you tell me how you want to wear it. How do you want to match? What part do you want to match? If you don't know, just say and I will use my own best judgment. Do you want natural? Do you want full coverage? Matches can vary depending on what you're looking for. Now, if you're one that has a lot of concerns on your face like me, I can't get away with just one shade all over my face because these points within a couple hours will start peeking through that shade because again, I can't use a lighter color on those and get any coverage. So just know the lighter you go with our foundation shades, with our highlights, the least amount of coverage they're gonna give on darker points on your face. So that's number one, very different than liquid foundation. If you want your face to be lighter than the rest of your body, like lighter than it is naturally, you can't just slap on a lighter shade. It won't last, okay? So know that that is an option, but you have to put a darker shade to match your skin tone first. Then you can press on that lighter shade to lighten it, tone it down, bring it back down to whatever color you want. It is a little bit different, but I wanted to explain that. The match is numero uno. And then 2 is application technique. This goes hand in hand, in my opinion, with brush choice. I'm gonna share my top 2 favorites. No matter the coverage you're looking for, you can get it with these 2 and do your entire full face. Tools you absolutely need. A lot of brushes, honestly, and they're so good, but there are so many that cause issues with application upon the first time. And so again, I always want people to avoid I don't want anyone to put it on for the first time and hate it. I know that I can always help you love it because there are trial and error things to learn. But the number one issue, people apply too much because they're not used to using such a pigmented cream. They'll use a super dense brush and they'll swipe into it. It'll give you enough for your entire face. That's how pigmented these are. So I'm gonna show you my 2 favorite brushes. So obviously different artists are gonna have different methods. They're gonna have their own way they like to put it on their own face. There are a lot of different application methods you can use for this makeup, but I'm gonna show you today like what works for me and 99% of my clients every single time. When I find somebody that has hated the makeup, doesn't like it, can't get it to work for them, and I see what they were matched with, I immediately know because of the method that they were using. And 9 times out of 10, they'd never heard of a color corrector because most artists don't use this method. I'm telling you, I have troubleshooted with thousands, tens of thousands of clients. And my goal is to get everyone to love this makeup. I hate when I hear people hate this because it was such a game changer for me. Not all artists are gonna color match you in the same way. And I just want you guys to understand there is a method to my madness, and it is because of what I've seen not work for people time and time again. And it's so frustrating because I can see it so clearly, but there's a lot of artists that don't understand how our makeup works still to this day. Let's go ahead and get started. I got 2 brushes. These are my ride or dies. I recommend them for anyone who's getting started. No matter what you want, you can get an amazing look with these two products. Now, first things first, people trying to sell you primers to use to get the makeup to stay on. You do not need a primer to get this makeup to stay. I recommend using a sunscreen as your primer. The key is finding silicone free, because that is one thing that, again, a lot of artists don't understand. Our makeup will slip off because silicones are very slippery. I am a chemist. I can check your ingredients list if you need. I have an entire video for prepping the skin. If you absolutely trial and error, tried everything and you can't get it to work. But for the most part, it is very rare that you need a primer to get this makeup to stick to your face. Usually that means your colors are too light. So I recommend a silicone-free sunscreen. I've got lots of suggestions. That's all you need to prep your skin. Now, obviously, I've got some eczema going on. So like if you really dry skin, you might want to prep areas of your face, again, with something silicone-free. If you guys have never had eczema before, it's like very dry, very like peeling of the skin. I have it all the way onto my eyelid. It's so fun. It's so fun. I've got it in my brows. Fun of getting older. I need to stop trying so many different products, but that is my job. How else am I gonna be able to share with you guys what's good and what you need to save your money on? So let's get right on into it. I've got the Detail and the blush bronzer brush, okay? I just washed my brushes, I'm good to go. Now, I have 3 highlight shades in my palette. I've got my corrector, my main shade, and my brightener, my accent brightener. I most likely won't even use this today. You don't necessarily need it unless you want that pop. And then I've got some contours and some bronzers. So I'm gonna go in, and you always want to apply darkest to lightest in highlights, because if you apply the lightest shade first, it's gonna increase the look of texture on your face. It's not gonna stay, all those issues we talked about. But if I was to use a corrector, matches the darkest points, like use under my eyes, for example. I have to use it to kind of get rid of these purple tones, right? The dark circles, the light is blinding. Then I can use my main shade to keep it matching, because this is gonna pull me too dark. Then I can put on brightener, and then this is gonna stay. But if I put the brightener on first, you would notice I have no coverage, and it also will not last all day. And so, method to my madness, go darkest to lightest. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and show you across my entire face how I use my corrector, okay? These are creams. When you first get them, they'll have like, almost like a waxy film on top. It's to kind of keep them from drying out and shipping, right? You can always use the heat of your finger to kind of warm them up a little bit, but you'll notice they're not super creamy. They're almost tacky, okay? That's what makes them stay where you put them, right? Too creamy and it would just melt off your face. These don't melt in summer off your face or anything like that. If you over apply though, you will feel tacky. So there's a way to avoid that. I will get to that tool at the end. Sunscreen, nothing else on my face. And I'm gonna go ahead and touch. Okay, this was a clean brush, so you can see how very little product that picked up. That is how very little product is needed. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit my cheeks first. And I'm just going to buff. So I love the blush brush for this because it is really soft. I'm gonna go ahead and dip in again. And I can buff it on. Therefore, it gives me a very like thin layer. Now you can probably see it kind of blurred a little bit, but like my face is very reactive. I touch it and it turns red, so it's kind of hard to tell until my face calms down. But what I'm doing is I'm buffing that on, and all of this hyperpigmentation, it's like slowly blurring. Like I don't need to put on so much product that it like cancels out all my freckles. Like I've had freckles my whole life. I don't want them covered, but I would like my skin to look a little bit more even. Now, rosacea is a different story. And I also have some darker points of hyperpigmentation in my contour line and down here. So like if I don't correct those at all, when I go in, like if I was just doing the finger paint method and I put contour right there, our contours do give coverage, unlike most contours on the market, but it's not gonna give me as much coverage as a corrector would. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna go ahead and correct that first. So when I do go in with my contour, it's not going to show through my contour and make it look patchy and unblended. So I use my corrector on almost my entire face because I've got rosacea, like a butterfly, right? But then I've got texture in some of these other areas. I've got some hyperpigmentation almost everywhere. And if you didn't notice before, my entire nose is darker, in part to broken capillaries, rosacea, and hyperpigmentation because I've got the mother load, guys. I got it all. So I'm just using this to buff so that I'm using the least amount of product possible because again, you don't need a lot. And as we get older and mature, guess what? Our face can't handle as much makeup. It makes us look drier and it emphasizes texture and fine lines. I think we all know by now, there's no makeup in the world that disguises texture. It just doesn't happen. Most makeup in the world emphasizes texture, and liquid foundations dry and they really make your areas look drier. This makeup definitely makes me look younger, which is one of the reasons why I'm still using it all these years later. Okay, thin layer all over, but you can tell I didn't really fully cover everything. It is pulling me, I was already darker than my neck. Now you can tell it's a lot warmer. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to the detail brush because it has this tiny little small end, and now I can use more corrector where needed. I like a small brush. So again, not swiping, I'm barely touching to get a little bit of product, and then I like to buff it on anywhere that needs more coverage. Usually that's my broken capillaries. If I have blemishes, which I have one right there. Got one healing right on top of my hyperpigmentation there, which is just a joy. Just double the fun. So I can buff and then I can just press. So with this makeup, buffing, small circles will make it go on a very thin layer, keep it really light. So if you want natural coverage, you can literally use this end, buff it on your whole face, donezo. I like it very natural, but like I need more coverage where I need it, right? So I go back in with something like this, and then if you press, you can get more coverage just where you want it. So I'm gonna go in to any dark points, and you'll tell I'm not using so much that like I'm seeing that this shade is way dark. Like that's how very little I'm picking up. And it is very necessary for these. So I'm going to press on all of these beautiful spots of eczema. Now, I do not have unrealistic expectations of what makeup can actually do. I understand there are limitations to every product on the market. Putting a little bit of that cream on right before is gonna help it set a little bit better for those like dry, scaly patches, but like there's no way that anything's gonna go on peeling skin with zero texture, okay? So I know that, but guess what? This makeup looks far better than any other makeup I've ever used over dry skin. So much better. Okay, so I've done the majority of my face. Now I need my eyes. Same thing, I like this small brush. I'm gonna color correct my entire eyelid because it's super light because I don't self tan my eyes. And purple because I have very thin skin. My veins show through, which is what gives me dark circles as well. So again, keeping it very light. So a lot of people don't want to put anything around their eyes, but I'm telling you, I have very mature eyes. And if you keep this very light, like almost like a wash, just like a veil, it instantly makes me look younger, even though I have product around my eyes. Because it just evens out the skin tone so much, like so much. Okay, with my corrector, I'm not fully covering everything because guess what? I am still going to then bring this back to matching. And so that's going to like build up my coverage in thin layers, which is key with this makeup. Can't slap on one thick layer. I've shown videos of the comparison before and the wear test. There is something about very thin layers with this makeup that can make it look like skin, even with good coverage. That's my goal. I want it to look like I have very beautiful skin, even though I don't. So that was all of my color corrector, which is Mango. You'll hear me talk about Magic Mango a lot. That's just Mango. It can work for so many people, even though people are scared of it. They think it's orange. Yes, I look warmer than I did before, but I am not like Oompa Loompa. If you put a very small amount on your face, it can cover almost anything. Obviously, it depends on the depth of the areas, and so some people might be color matched to different correctors, but that is the one you'll see me use every single time. All right, I'm gonna switch back to the blush end, okay? And I'm gonna go into my main shade. Now you can tell, these are two shades apart because now we have a shade in between the two. But you can tell how much less warm this is. This is Sandy, this is my main. And it's gonna bring me back to matching, and it's going to tone down that warmth you see on my face while also evening out my skin tone and lightly building up the coverage as well. So again, we're just gonna tap in. It's hard to see now because I already used it, but the key with this step, because I just put a corrector everywhere I needed it. I didn't put it literally everywhere, but like it's across the majority of my face. I can't just go in and start buffing again because that's gonna mix. And when the colors get pulled off of some of these spots, it's again I'm gonna lose coverage there. So the key is pressing. So it's, if you heard stippling, tapping, bouncing, whatever you wanna call it, I'm just like tapping, and then I'm gonna gently tap in again. And then I'm just going to tap across each area of my face. Again, it can kind of depend on your preference, how much, or if you put it on everywhere. Like I have dark spots everywhere, so I like to even out my skin tone more. Some people might not even put this shade everywhere, but this is what gives me my even canvas. And then I do the same thing. I switch back to the small end of that detail, and I then go into those smaller areas just like I did with my corrector. And again, this is just building up my coverage, evening out. And I feel like this shade brightens enough for me usually too, depending on the day. If I'm going full glam, I will go ahead and go in for my brightener, but lately on the daily, did I already do this side? I can't think. I'm getting over a cold, so I keep having to stop and cough. So I apologize. So building up coverage, like it doesn't look like my whole face is like, I don't look cakey. And you tell me you're using this foundation and you look cakey, there is no doubt in my mind you are using a shade too light. I don't even have to see or hear what shades you're using. Guarantee you. Okay, so now my skin tone is very even. I have very good coverage. To me, it's looking a little bit heavy. Yes, this looks heavy for me. So I will show you how to fix that, but we're gonna go ahead and go in to my favorite step of the process, which is contouring, because now I'm all one color. I'm pretty flat. I mean, you can kind of see, I mean, I do have natural shadows. We're gonna emphasize those shadows with a little contour, and contour does not have to be super complicated. Just grab yourself the detail brush and it makes it so simple. Go ahead and go into my cool contour, which is this guy, Astoria. I'm gonna go in with this brush, add an angle, makes it so easy. Our contours are very dry. You'll notice you barely tap into the highlights. You have to pounce in a little bit more to the contours to kind of get them on your brush, but they are designed that way. They're supposed to be that way. They're not supposed to be very creamy. They're not supposed to blend in with the rest of your makeup. They're supposed to stay put right where you put them, and they're supposed to offer coverage. This is why they're a different consistency. So I'm gonna go right on top of my cheekbone, and I'm just kind of barely tapping like that. And then I'm just gonna keep pouncing. Now I'm gonna use some pressure because I'm just gonna blend with this pressing motion. If I was to do this or back and forth, remember all that hyperpigmentation I had there? I don't need that to peek out. Like my rosacea is there, so I'm using a cool contour. I color corrected so that it doesn't pull my contour red. Without all of those things, I have very different looking makeup. So these are all the things I've learned over the years to tweak the best possible look for me. That way I can just go back in, pounce where I need to kind of blend, depending on how strong or not you like your contour. This is what I do. I can now contour very quickly and easily because I always have a method to my madness. Get on half the brush, tap on, start pressing to blend. It automatically starts blending down, and then you just kind of pull upwards. Go back in with the brush you used your highlight. Just kind of press to blur out any edges. Easy peasy. Forehead, I'm gonna only go to about right here so that I skip all of my bad zones. Maybe it was a bronzer I was using that caused it. Who knows? I feel like I need a little right there. Along the jawline, pull down the neck. You can do some detail contouring. I'm not gonna go crazy because I'm not going to brighten, because I feel like I don't even need it. I am going to use a little bit of bronzer though, because I love me some bronzer. So I'm gonna flip this over to the bronzer end. Oh man, right now we have Xanadu, which is like a mixture of these two. It's in another compact. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do Glow Illuminator mixed with a little, this one, Bella Bronzer. So these are brand new, so they're very creamy, but like as they dry out in your compact, you'll notice you have to kind of dip in less, okay? Not to mention, I'm like sitting here in the sun, baking and sweating, and my creams are staying very soft. I can tell. So I'm just gonna kind of barely tap on. Very gently. I'm tapping. We don't need to move all that coverage. We just put right there, right? Very glowy. Now, the key step. I see so many people, I'll admit, I was one of those people when I first started wearing this makeup and I thought this next item was optional, not needed. I didn't want to ask people to buy something else. I get it, but guess what? To me, non-negotiable. Can't get my makeup to look the way I want without it. And yes, it is different than any other sponge you've ever used like it. This is not designed to apply a liquid. This is designed to remove excess. And when you're wearing a cream that is easy to over apply, because that's the number one issue, you're gonna need this. And if you might think this looks like skin, but let me tell you, it doesn't, not yet. And if you ever have, like I said, it doesn't set by itself, so you can get, it will like eventually kind of like migrate to the parts of your face that are lowest where you get creases. So small lines around your eyes. But if you remove excess from those areas, you're not gonna have product really migrate on your face. And since I said before, I'm not a fan that you have to like spray down and drench your whole face. I don't even use a setting spray 99% of the time, unless I'm like applying my makeup and I know it has to last like 12 plus hours. My makeup will stay like this that long anyway, but like, it's the only thing that can prevent my creasing around my eyes. And I can teach you guys how to get this just right. I have videos showing how to make it perfect. Now, I do use this before blush because I feel like blush is one of those things that this can easily pull off. And when I apply blush, I apply like just the amount I want, no more, no less. Okay, so there you go. Now I feel like I'm looking like skin. Now I'm gonna go ahead and see if it pulled off. I'm not used to having these patches. It did pretty good, but sometimes if this baby is too damp, it can pull coverage off areas. So I always kind of perfect my full face, and then I might go in and apply a little bit more just on like a couple places. Blemishes are prone to like makeup not sticking. Obviously, these things kind of are too. Okay, so now that I've got good coverage everywhere, use a little bit of lip oil because I'm talking too much. I'm gonna go ahead and set that. So like I said, I don't wanna necessarily have to like set my full face. I like the glowy look. If you like a matte look, this makeup will leave your skin with a natural glow. It is a cream, okay? If you want a matte look, I highly recommend a loose powder. I use our Vanilla Dust. It's a translucent powder. You can use it with your perfector. I like to pick up the powder brush because I can control the amount. I kind of just touch, and then I'm gonna go in, make sure I don't have any creasing, and I'm gonna just barely press under the eye. It kind of blurs things, and I know that that is gonna be set all day. Now, my under eyes are my problem area, so I do set those just for peace of mind, mainly. Like, I don't wanna have to worry about like tapping out creases through the day, but if you don't care about that, you don't have to use any. Sometimes it just depends on each person. Like I'll usually take a little bit extra down the center just to knock away a little bit of shine in the T-zone. And that's it. That's all I do for the full day. Now, I do like to powder my lids so that my eyeshadow lasts because I have oily eyelids. And did you know that your eyelids are one of the oiliest parts of your face? They have the most oil glands. So it will help with better eyeshadow longevity as well. There you go. We've come to the favorite part of the routine, in my opinion. I can't even tell you because I have so many favorite lip and cheeks. It is by far my favorite. So our lip and cheeks are all cream. but we have 3 different formulations. We have a satin, which is a matte finish, which is, oh my gosh, no shine, okay? Usually they're the most pigmented for the most part. This is just a light color. There's one right there. We have semi-gloss, which is kind of right in between, a little bit glowy, but most of them are pretty pigmented as well. And then we have glosses, which are way more glossy, probably less longevity. If you really want to compare, I feel like on the cheeks and lips, yes, the satins or mattes are gonna last longer. So I usually recommend my clients, if you want really great longevity, to like layer, put a matte down, then put a little bit of a semi-gloss or gloss over it if you like the glow to your cheeks, which is my ride or die. So let's just see what color can we use today. I'll be honest, a lot of these are brand new and I've been dying to try different combinations. I'm gonna start with Strawberry Shortcake, which looks pretty pigmented, but I think this is one of our least pigmented new releases we just had. Okay, same thing goes with lip and cheeks, guys. I dip in, blush end, and then I'm just tapping exactly how much I want, and it's blending at the same time because I covered a lot of stuff in that area. I don't need it all coming back through. Okay, a little bit of that, and I'm gonna put Tangerine Dream over it. These are both semi-gloss, I believe. You will rarely see me use one lip and cheek. I'm always mixing and matching. I find that's the fun part of our makeup, is that you can literally try a different combination every day if you have a few shades. Those are the 2 I put on. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna use the same contour color I used on my cheeks. I'm just gonna line my lips. Use the same color. Strawberry Shortcake. And I'm gonna top it with one of my favorite lip and cheeks of all time, which is this super glowy, gold shimmery version called Sunshine State, because it makes everything look good. Okay, and then the very last color within 3D foundation is called an illuminator. So in other makeup, we call it a highlight, but you know, we wanted to make things difficult, so we call it an illuminator. Pretty much anything that has some shimmer in it that you can highlight the highest points of your face. I like to use the perfector so that I can swipe in, and then I just dab it so that it blends at the same time. And you can use this anywhere you want to glow. Okay, I'm gonna do my brows real quick. All right, so I just did my brows with an eyeshadow, but let's be honest, you don't have to start with eyeshadows or any of these other things. You mainly just need your highlight shades, a contour if you want to contour. If not, I highly recommend a bronzer, a lip and cheek, an illuminator if you want. You can use any kind of setting powder you already have. I do feel like these are the most important things if you are going to be using our foundation. These brushes are designed for our creams. And so I've had to troubleshoot a lot with clients who didn't have our brushes, and the brushes turned out to be the problem 99% of the time. So I do recommend these brushes. But other than that, you can trial and error and use what you have. I'd be happy to help you troubleshoot along the way if you need to. And there you go. There's our final look using 3D foundation from Seint. Natural, glowy. I swear I look 10 years younger when I use this makeup. So to all the UK ladies, if you are ready to finally be able to try Seint when we launch, I'm happy to color match you and make sure you get everything you need and all of your questions answered. I do 3D matches every single day. My color match request is down in the drop box below the video. I will put it in the comment as well and pin that to the top. I also do full eyeshadow matches. If you're like, Sarah, I am going to be ordering everything at once. You want the whole kit and caboodle. I do custom eyeshadow matches based on all of our permanent eyeshadow shades. And again, what you request that you want from your eyeshadow as well. Everything I do is custom. I will never match you to a collection. I'm always happy to answer why I picked certain colors for you or why something might not work. I hope this video helped you kind of understand why it's different. And it can take a little trial and error, but you guys, look at that. It is so worth it. I have yet to ever find anything that comes close to this. And the portability, guys, if you travel, you can go through airport security. You don't even have to take this out of your bag. It's a game changer. Saves time, opening, closing bottles. I can do my makeup with one hand. So there's so many benefits, so many good things I could say. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I will see you next week. Love you.